The film begins in a house where a tennis ball is lying around. Suddenly, it starts moving around and falls off the shelf. The ball rolls around the house and falls down the stairs. Inside is Marcel the shell, a tiny shell with one eye and shoes. Marcel was introduced to the world in 2010 as the shell with shoes on. He is a little shell who is somewhat awkward but confident in himself, with a whole world around him that is confusing, exciting, and full of opportunities. Just then, we hear a male voice asking all about Marcel. The man's name is Dean. Documentarian Dean Flesher Camp films Marcel's day-to-day life as he lives with his grandmother Connie. Dean wants to take Marcel's interview and post it on social media. He wants to make a documentary on Marcel. Dean asks Marcel if he's ready for the interview, and that's when Marcel replies that he is, but that he's also very nervous. After their initial conversation, Dean starts asking him about his daily routine and his lifestyle. Marcel replies that it's not so hard and that he gets by just fine. But sometimes he just misses his family a lot. He says that a colony consists of at least 20 shells, and without them, it's difficult to survive. Marcel adds that he is staying alone in the house with his grandmother, Nana Connie. He says that life hasn't been the same ever since his mother, father, and all his family just disappeared, and he wants to find them. Marcel loves his grandmother a lot, as does Connie. They only have each other to survive, and a tiny piece of lint tied to a string that Marcel calls Alan. Marcel continues and says that he and his community used to live with a couple, but they turned out to be very toxic. Back when they lived there, Marcel also lived peacefully with his entire family. They used to split duties in order to get by. But since the couple fought a lot, they separated and went their own ways. The two always screamed at one another, and soon, a community of other shells was whisked away in the luggage of the former tenants after a very nasty breakup. Marcel's family and the couple have been missing since that time. Losing his family affected him a lot, but he always encourages himself to do what is right. Marcel explains to Dean that he loves himself and always makes sure to appreciate himself. He adds that he doesn't lose hope, but rather wishes to survive on his own. Marcel explains to Dean how he gets around the house throughout the day. He shows Dean how he gets inside a tennis ball and rolls around to go from one place to another. Similarly, he uses honey to climb walls. He also ties a rope to an electric whisk and rotates it to make fruits fall from the trees. Marcel takes Dean to his bathroom and shows him lots of curly hairs lying on the ground. He talks about how the curls might become longer if they straighten them. Marcel adds that those strands are really strong and he uses them to make ropes. Dean just laughs at that and goes to look at all the other things. Marcel then takes him to the arboretum and shows him the collection of trees that keep his community alive. After that, the two go towards Marcel's bedroom, which is made out of bread. Just as they're talking, Dean's dog comes jumping in, which scares Marcel, but he's also fascinated to know that the dog is Dean's best friend. Eventually, the interview continues, and that's when he confesses that sometimes people say that his head is bigger than his body, but he doesn't mind. During the whole interview, Marcel keeps on asking Dean numerous questions, but he doesn't really answer them because he doesn't want his voice to be recorded in the documentary. He says that he wants to remain anonymous, but Marcel doesn't care. Eventually, Dean gives up as well and starts talking about himself. He tells Marcel that he is renting the Airbnb they're living in because he had to move out of his old place because he recently got divorced. When Marcel hears that, he becomes extremely sad. He gets upset because Dean never tells him anything, and it's always just him sharing about his life. As the shoot progresses, Dean discovers that Marcel has been stealing his belongings to make furniture. In turn, Marcel just smiles and says that he didn't know. Later that day, Dean shows Marcel all the short snippets of the interview. He also explains the process of uploading it to YouTube, and Marcel is really intrigued. Later, the two go to meet Nana Connie. Dean talks to her and explains how he is making a documentary on Marcel. Connie greets him happily and talks about how she's seen loads of people come in and go out of their house. She says that when the couple lived with them, they had lots of food, but now that they're gone, the food has also disappeared. To survive, Nana Connie had to start farming and harvesting. This is why she spends most of her time in a little garden. As she doesn't have her family anymore, she has actually befriended all the insects that live there, who help her out a lot. Dean shows Connie and Marcel their video. There are already a lot of views, which makes Marcel jittery, but also happy. Marcel is a performer, and he loves singing, especially when he's stressed. He starts to recall all the fights the couple used to have. That's when Connie admits that because of the fights, the whole Shell community would run to the sock drawer in order to be safe. Right now, Marcel and Connie enjoy watching 60 Minutes and are really big fans of Lesley Stahl. However, Marcel is sometimes sad, remembering that he used to watch the show with his and Connie's whole family. He gets emotional thinking about the day they all left him, and so Dean gives him a little space. The next day, Marcel showed Dean carvings of his family that he had put on a table. He had a mother and father, siblings, aunts, and even neighbors. In their memory, Marcel plays a mournful tune and admits that he feels guilty and sad for not being there for his family. His biggest regret is that he couldn't even say goodbye to them all. Now he just spends his days with Connie, but she has started to show signs of dementia. Eventually, Marcel starts sneakily recording Dean too, and they have lots of fun. Dean uploads all of Marcel's videos to the internet, and they become surprisingly popular. Everyone on the internet knows him now and imitates his behavior and mannerisms because he's just so cute. Many influencers upload videos wanting to know more about him and the world around him. They become so popular that people have even started making memes about them. Not just that, Marcel is covered by TV personalities like Conan O'Brien and Brian Williams, which results in him having many new fans. Dean makes popcorn, which the two Shells love a lot. Together, they watch videos of people finding more shells like them, and they're really fascinated. Dean knows that Marcel misses his family a lot, so he helps him set up a live stream video where he asks for help relocating his family. Marcel asks everyone on the live stream to help him and even posts pictures of Mark and Larissa. He shows pictures of his house and some sketches of his family as well. But when he posts his home address, he receives a bunch of people calling to mock him and standing outside just wanting selfies. This leaves Marcel really disappointed. Dean offers to take Marcel around in his car as they try to locate Mark's car, but Marcel gets carsick and vomits a lot. He is overwhelmed by the size of the world and the number of cars that pass by. He realizes that his town is so much larger than his own backyard when Dean takes him to the top of a hill. Finally, the two end up going back home without any more leads. As they head home, they see that they're surrounded by fans. They somehow manage to get by. But when they get inside, Marcel finds that Nana Connie has fallen from the washing machine and cracked her shell. Because of this, he decides to stick around and take care of her more. As Connie is really sick, Marcel asks Dean to take his dog, Arthur, back to his wife as he's a real danger to small creatures like them. Dean understands that and obliges. Being famous has helped Marcel, but it has also brought a lot of problems for him. Due to this, he starts to hide inside his house in case someone breaks in. One day, Dean finds an email from 60 Minutes producer Shari Finkelstein stating that the show would like to do an interview with him and Marcel. Marcel is hesitant as he is worried about Connie's health. He says he won't do it until she feels better. Having no other way, Dean tells Connie about the email, who later begs Marcel to go through with it despite his concerns because she wants him to live a more fulfilled life and also tells him that it may bring him closer to his family. Marcel doesn't want to lose his Nan, but after her pleas, he reluctantly agrees. Even since the accident, Marcel spends a lot more time with Connie. He does all sorts of fun activities with her. Eventually, Marcel thinks she's getting better and starts to get more excited about the interview. Soon after, the crew arrives at the house for the interview. There are a lot of people running around fixing up all of the necessary equipment. Marcel is thrilled to see all this. While he is initially nervous, Dean encourages him to come out and meet everyone, including Lesley Stahl. After seeing her, Marcel and Connie are both starstruck. Dean and Marcel go through with the interview. Meanwhile, Connie sits at the window and contemplates her life. After the interview is done, Marcel cannot find Connie. He panics and goes to her bed. That's when he finds out that Connie has, unfortunately, passed away. Marcel is grief-stricken, so Dean helps him bury Connie in her garden. The two offer flowers and sing a sad song to mourn her. Marcel then delivers a eulogy for his grandmother while Dean signs a lease on a new apartment. A couple days later, Marcel receives a new message from the 60 Minutes show. He's told that their segment on him has led them to actually track Larissa down in Guatemala. Apparently, she has been working there for an NGO to help the needy. When Larissa learns about Marcel, she agrees to help and contacts her ex. Despite Mark's reluctance, Larissa somehow gets the crew to bring Marcel and Dean to Mark's house. This is their last hope for finding Marcel's family. The whole crew starts looking around. Just then, Mark and Larissa begin to argue, which reminds Marcel that whenever the Shells heard the two fighting, they would huddle together for security. Marcel squeals in excitement and runs to Mark's sock drawer. There, he ends up finding his entire family. Marcel happily reunites with them, and they all huddle around him. His parents, cousins, and aunts all celebrate him coming back, and Marcel couldn't be happier. Dean eventually helps Marcel bring the family back to the house, where they settle back in. Marcel then sings them all a song in order to have a proper funeral for Connie, and the family talks to the camera while enjoying their time together. During this time, Marcel teaches his family all the tricks and hacks he has learned. He teaches them about walking on the walls with the help of honey and even shows them the whisk's usage. Even though he's very happy, Marcel craves some quiet sometimes. For that, he goes to the laundry room and looks out the window. Back in the laundry room, Marcel tells Dean how he likes the sound that comes out when he stands by the window. He loves the way the wind blows through his shell while he admires the beauty outside. Marcel exclaims that sometimes he hears Connie singing to him as the wind blows past. The movie ends with Dean showing Marcel his new apartment and them being friends forever.